An amazing weekend was had by MotoGP for the 1000th Grand Prix weekend. It was an amazing race and one that will go down in the history books as the biggest ever crowd rolled in to watch the best in the world fight it out for a historic race win. So let's take a look at the 5 things we learned from the French Grand Prix. Fernandez, fabulous. Augusto Fernandez had an amazing race weekend this weekend. He got through to Q2 for the first time ever, and although his sprint race wasn't very good, he more than made up for it in the feature race as he crossed the line in 4th. It was an incredible result, not only for himself, but for the Tech 3 team who, it was their home race, so what a result for them. And Augusto is really showing why he should be in MotoGP after perhaps a little bit of a slow start. Now that he's got that really good KTM underneath him, he's obviously feeling good. I expect that we'll see a lot more from him in the future after this incredible result. Championship changes. A huge moment for the championship occurred as Bagnaia and Viñales clashed and crashed together, leading to them fighting it out in the gravel trap rather than fighting it out on the track. I am interested to hear some thoughts in the comment section down below on what you think about that incident, who's at fault, etc, etc. But either way, as much as we don't like to see Bagnaia or any other rider go down, it does mean that the championship becomes a lot more interesting. Marco Bezzecchi obviously took an incredible race win. He timed it perfectly to get to the front and just escape away. And through a chaotic race, he did an incredible job to just clear out and take his first ever dry race win. So after all of that, it means that we've got this championship that becomes very close once again. Bagnaia had a decent lead, but now it's down to just 1 point between himself and Bezzecchi, with Binder closing in as well. It means that we've got an exciting championship on our hands again a quarter of the way through the season, so I'm looking forward to seeing how it plays out. Prima Podium. Joan Zarco did an excellent job to make up lots of places from his 9th place grid spot, and end up on the podium in the feature race. He had a pretty good sprint race too, didn't quite make up the same number of places, but he had a lot of pace in that middle section of the race, and I was hoping that he would manage to catch up the front few a little bit quicker and go for the race win. Sadly, that didn't happen, but I'm sure the podium in front of his home crowd feels pretty sweet. It's got to be coming, that first race win. He's got the speed for it. It's just a matter of getting the whole weekend together for the Frenchman, and hopefully it can happen this year. On the other side of the garage, Jorge Martin also had pretty much the perfect weekend, let's be honest. The sprint race win, something that we were expecting him to do a lot of this season, but so far has gone missing a little bit. He finally took his first one of those, and I'm sure he'll take plenty more this year. And of course, his feature race 2nd place, which was very positive for him as well. I'm sure he'll gain a lot of confidence, and we'll see even more Jorge Martin on the podium in the upcoming rounds. Another Marquez return. Marc Marquez returned from injury once again and did an excellent job throughout the weekend to put his Honda in positions where it probably should have been. But it has to be said, he crashed a lot. And it will be interesting to see how the Honda develops compared to the Yamaha throughout the season, as the 2 Yamaha riders, Fabio Quartararo and Franco Morbidelli, are very consistent despite the struggles with their bikes, picking up 8ths and 10ths, and for Morbidelli, yes, a little bit further back, but picking up consistent results and getting the kilometers on those bikes to actually help the engineers develop and get good data that will hopefully push the Yamaha in the correct direction. By contrast, Honda has had quite impressive results, with Marquez getting on the podium in the Portimao sprint and 5th place in the sprint this weekend, but also has had a lot of crashes that mean that their riders aren't getting the distance, the racing distance, or in a lot of cases the practice distance, to actually get good data on the bikes, and that's going to affect their long-term development. It'll be really interesting to see which bike is able to progress hopefully up towards the front quicker, the Honda or the Yamaha, throughout this season. Mir in misery. On the other side of the garage from the aforementioned Marc Marquez, Joan Mir is really struggling. In the last 3 rounds, he hasn't finished any of the races, not the sprint, not the feature. And if you extend that to Argentina, he crashed out in the sprint, and that meant that he didn't even start the main race. It's just been what is probably one of the worst starts to any MotoGP season for a rider for Joan Mir. And going back to that Honda development, it means that they just can't develop that bike in the correct direction unless he's getting the time on it to actually tell them what he wants from it. Really, the facts from Mir's disappointing season just get worse and worse. He sits behind Jonas Folger after this weekend in the title, and that means that once Bastianini and Pol Espargaro come back, Mir could end up being 23rd in a 22 rider championship. It's just been a disappointing season so far for Joan and Repsol Honda as a whole, and I hope that they can turn it around a little bit in the upcoming races and actually just get him across the finish line. Rider of the weekend. My rider of the weekend this weekend is really easy. It's Augusto Fernandez. He did an amazing job to get through to Q2. Yes, his sprint wasn't very good, but for that 4th place result, that was really incredible. So he is my rider of the weekend. Struggle of the weekend. My struggle of the weekend goes to Jack Miller, who, you know, he had the bike to win. He had the bike to put it on pole. He had the bike to win the sprint. And it was just, not very good racing from Jack this weekend. He looked fast. It was a weekend where he should have at least been on the podium twice, but really he ended up falling back in the feature race and crashing out twice. Just disappointing all around. So he is my struggle of the weekend. And finally, into my predictions. So my first prediction was that Johann Zarco would get the win. It was a bit optimistic. He didn't. I think that was probably to be expected. My second prediction was that Jack Miller would get a double podium. He also didn't do that. He, crashed out twice, so that's kind of the opposite of getting a double podium. And finally, my last prediction was that we would get a wet or flag-to-flag sprint race. And sadly, that didn't happen either, although I'm hoping that we do see a flag-to-flag sprint race by the end of the year. Alright, that's 5 things we learned from the French/1000th Grand Prix of MotoGP this weekend. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe. Comment down below your thoughts on that Pecco versus Vinales crash or the Alex Marquez versus Luca Marini crash. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.